First and foremost, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahshai. Double honors to the apostles, a great millstone. We're teaching this truth and sincerity. And a shout out to hopeful elect. And we're going to do another lesson today on Babylon the Great. Of course, America. As we know, there were signs in the heavens, and in the moon, and in the stars. And they're letting us know. We just had an eclipse of the sun, and upon that judgment fell. Upon Texas, you know, and yes, I do hope that our camps are safe there, but, you know, hurricane struck just right after the signs in the heavens and the stars. So it's about letting us know that this hour is coming near, where Babylon the Great, America, is about to be judged. And so, we start in Revelation chapter 17, verse 6. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, that is, the indigenous people that were murdered here in Babylon the Great, the Israelites, the tribe of Gad especially, but the tribe of Judah and all the other tribes that were murdered here. And with the blood of the saints, the martyrs of Yahushua, and I saw her, and I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Where didst thou marvel? I will tell thee thy mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her. Well, we know that the beast is UN NATO, and so we know that Babylon the Great, America, is the one that hangs over, is the whore that sitteth in the middle, and which had the 7 heads and the 10 horns. Again, this is talking about the UN NATO, and of course the EU countries, which are those 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest, that is and is not, shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. That is, after the Roman Empire was destroyed, and was defeated by the Moors, which are the Israelites, was put into captivity, but as of 1492, they came out of perdition. And they that dwell on earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the Lamb's book of life from the foundation of the world, that behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. And that's of course talking about the EU, which came out of the Roman Empire. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, and the woman sitteth. Again, you know, that city that sits on 7 hills, America, Babylon the Great. And the beast that was and is not, and is of the 8th, and is out of the 7. That is, the American Empire came out of the 7, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as of yet, but receiveth power as kings 1 hour with the beast. They have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. This is when they unite with Russia and come against Babylon the Great, America. They shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. This is when they try to battle against Yahushua when he returns. They that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And that is the saints that are out here doing this work, you know. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, they shall hate the whore and burn and make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. That is when they launch their nuclear missiles against Babylon the Great, America. All these nations that everybody thinks are allies of America, well, they're slowly turning on them. Thanks to Donald Trump. For Yahweh put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of Yahweh shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is the great city, that is America, Babylon the Great, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Again, Babylon the Great is the hammer of the whole earth, and is the one that's doing everything. And I think that most people know that America is not the G.I. Joe, the heroes, that in fact they're the terrorists, because they set up terrorists to go into places like Syria and Iraq to bring the kingdoms down, just so they can put their bases there and rule over their kingdom. You know, it's kind of funny that over here in Babylon the Great, people can mourn false flags or false narratives, the propaganda news channels, you know, like Sandy Hook, for instance. Take that, for instance, you know, which the shooting wasn't even real. There's so many videos proving that the whole thing was a hoax, but people will sit there and they'll mourn that. But you hear about a bomb going off in Syria or in Iraq and school children are killed. Oh, not a word. Oh, they're just Iraqis. They're just Syrians, you know. Who cares, right? You know, but they'll mourn over false flags and under false pretenses the Sandy hoax, which everybody knows that it's a hoax. And everybody knows that 9/11 is an inside job. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy fact. That 9/11 was in fact done by, even Donald Trump had a part to do with it. Absolutely. Because they answer to the Rothschilds and Rockefellers. Those are the Amalekites that are running everything here in Babylon the Great, you know, but their kingdom is about to come down. Because we, the elect of Yasha Allah, are prophesying the downfall of this kingdom. We know that the so-called American dream has fallen, you know. That pretty much, at this system, they're going to collapse it on purpose. The dollar's going to disappear, and then of course, they're getting ready for the microchip. Already, the Wisconsin company has already implemented the microchip there under volunteer services, but eventually will become mandatory that you will have to have an RFID chip in your right hand or in your forehead that you cannot buy, sell, or trade. And we know that companies are merging towards this. In fact, there was just an announcement down in Argentina that, or is it Venezuela? I think it's Argentina though, that they're about to implement this microchip. And the microchip is the mark of the beast. You know, don't let anybody else tell you that it's just the philosophies or it's worship of Cesare Borgia, which we know that that's a false image anyways. But it's a lot deeper than that. Because the worship of Cesare Borgia, hey, you don't have to worship Christianity in order to buy, sell, or trade. In fact, most people are not even so-called worshippers of Cesare Borgia, which is the image that they implemented. But it was just nothing more than a false prophecy. That's why oftentimes the second beast is referred to as the false prophet, because the false doctrine of Christianity, which comes out of the Roman Catholic Church, which we know the Roman Catholic Church is really the Edomites, now anyways, but it wasn't always that way. But pretty much, here in Babylon the Great, though, this whole thing is blowing up. People see America for what it is now. You know, they know that this government's fucked. You know, people are not receiving the so-called benefits that they thought they'd be receiving. You know. And so, a lot of these countries, they know that. And that's why they're just about through with it. They're through with all of America's promises, and then they don't deliver upon the promises, which is why Turkey is pulling out of the whole thing, of the Syria conflict, and making deals with Vladimir Putin. Because ultimately, it's Vladimir Putin, which is Gog and Magog, is ultimately going to destroy America, Babylon the Great, and then is going to come against the Most High. It's going to gather all the armies, first to destroy the whore, Babylon the Great, America, and then to come against the Most High. And of course, he's going to lose. But pretty much, though, people can mourn the losses of a school shooting that never even really took place. And then you got the false flag Boston bombing, which never even took place, but they're going to make a movie about it and make you believe that this actually happened, when the terrorists themselves are nothing more than the Edomites themselves pretending to be other groups, you know, and they like to put labels on groups. You know, so ISIS is the boogeyman that they obviously used. Not in the case of the Boston bombing, but in just about everything else, it's always ISIS. You know, these staged, we could talk about the events in Paris, we could talk about all the other things, and they always use the false narrative of ISIS. But who is ISIS? Israeli Secret Intelligence Services, right? And who runs that? The Amalekites run that. And you know, all the nations of the world know that those Amalekites, the Khazars who call themselves Jews, are not the real Jews. The Jews of the Bible are, in fact, the blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, and among that you have confusion of faces, people that might look like me or other nations that are the real Israelites. And pretty much, they know that that's not the true Israelites, because for one, there'd be peace upon the earth if the real Israelites had returned to the land. But you see, we're here to serve out our captivity. And our captivity is just about over. And what are we to do to serve out the rest of our captivity? Are we just going to go in underneath our house and hide when the bombs are dropping? No, man. We're to come out here and prophesy that this is going to happen. You know, making preparations is making sure that you're doing the work. Go out here and do the work. You know, so we can reach the lost. The lost are those that do not know that they're Israelites, that are part of that elect. John 3:16 was really talking about the whosoever shall receive him. It's talking about his elect, those that would receive him, who are the real Israelites. The elect, the 1/3, the ones that are going to go out and do the work. That's the whosoever he was talking about. You know, but for years we've been lied to. And we're just here to undo Esau's lies, to prophesy against this kingdom and against everything. Not just Babylon the Great stands for, but everything the so-called white man has said has been a lie, has distorted every truth and turned it into a lie, has taken every lie and called it his truth. History is not what they taught us. And every time a celebrity like Michael Jackson or Jim Carrey, which I'm surprised they haven't offed him, but comes against them, of course, they don't just discredit them, but pretty much they make them disappear. You know, that's why there's all kinds of charges against Bill Cosby now, because he started speaking against the so-called movements. So they had to keep him in line. So that's why all this come up. And of course they made O.J. Simpson an example, but in a court of law, Esau's law, he was presumed innocent. But that's not how people see it, because we're the indigenous people. We, the blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, are the indigenous people, which is why Donald Trump wants to build that wall and come against the Latino tribes, and particularly because he knows that we're the Israelites. And he knows that once the elect have been sealed, that it's over. Esau knows his time is short. Esau is the devil that the Bible speaks about. In fact, you can even look up the word devil, and Esau's name comes right up. It's right there. You know, that's why the images of the devil show like a red horned devil, because the red represents the so-called white people, because they're not really white, they're red. You know, and that's why they change names, like they call us Indians or Redskins, you know, but we're not. Where in fact we have pigmentation, but you see, that's what Esau does, is turn everything upside down, so you can't see what's happening. But we're only here to wake up the elect. 2/3 of our people ain't even going to receive this. They're going to continue doing what they normally do. Going to act like nothing's happening, even though they see things right before their eyes. They see the downfall of a place because, you know, it's just like a woman in travail, as the scriptures say. This place is crumbling down piece by piece. And in one day and 1 hour, this place will be no more. But he sends watchmen before the downfall of a place. You know, Jeremiah in particularly talked about the downfall of both Babylons, but in particularly Babylon the Great, because he's seen them bend that bow and come against. He's talking about the thermonuclear missiles, because how can you bend a bow from one side of the earth to the other? He's talking about thermonuclear weapons. And this place will be consumed by nuclear fire. That's what the lake of fire is in Revelation. You know? So all those hellfire and brimstone messages you may have once heard in the so-called 501c3 church, it's really talking about the lake of fire. And, of course, the lake of fire is talking about the thermonuclear war, which is about to kick off, especially when Syria is subdued. And that's happening. You know, every day they're coming up with more reasons. Putin told them not to go into Syria. That didn't stop them. Because it's really the Rothschilds and Rockefellers that are doing everything. You know, Donald Trump, he's just a puppet, just like Barack Obama was a puppet. All these people are puppets on the strings. And the ones pulling the strings are the Rothschilds and Rockefellers. You know, they are the Amalekites that are behind everything. Benjamin Netanyahu, all of them. The Zionists who call themselves Jews. You know, because that's just it. Esau really wants to try and come down on this thing, you know. But he can't really dispute it anymore because it's all coming out. The more and more he tries to dispute it, send people like, you know, Vigilant Christian, Super Mario, or any others, you know, Vocab Malone to come against this, the more and more we disprove him with the word of this. And it's undisputed. You know, Babylon the Great will be destroyed by nuclear fire. All these nations are turning against Babylon the Great now. Pretty much, they know. They only had to go with Babylon for so long, but they see now that Putin is pretty much standing against. So it's like, well, with Putin on our side, we don't have to fall to that, which is why Turkey has recently turned. All these nations are now starting to go with Russia, you know, like the Brexit system, you know, which the Brexit system came after the BRICS systems. They're pulling out of the American dollar because the petrodollar is about to be no more, because the currencies are pretty much going to be crashed, and it's going to be brought down by the Amalekites. The Rothschilds and Rockefellers are planning to crash the dollar, which is why they want to implement the final, which is the mark of the beast, the RFID chip. And they want to put that in there. That's why they got you used to the idea of it. That's why now, you know, everywhere you go, chip reader coming soon, or it already works. You know, that pretty much you have to do everything with the chip. It's because they plan to put a chip in you. You know, that you can't buy a sell or trade unless you have that chip. And we've been warning about this for years. But everybody thought that we were crazy, but now they're starting to see this thing roll out, you know. But you will not be able to buy, sell, or trade unless you receive the mark. And that mark is that RFID implement. And Esau had set up all these other camps to say that it's not the chip. But it is the chip. Pretty much that food stamps and Social Security and all that, it's all going to be on that chip. And when you get out of line, they'll just turn your chip off. That's it, because Esau wants to control it all because he knows the time is short. You know. And, you know, it's been happening for quite a while. You know, we've been seeing, you know, they'll pull off things here and there, you know, just to see how that's going to work. And they'll do false flags and, you know, you need identification, you know, and it's like, well, how can we identify these people, you know, especially, you know, with Donald Trump, because Donald Trump wants to put the implement into all these so-called illegals, which that's kind of funny, because if you want to talk about illegal occupation, the tribe of Gad was the first ones here, as well as the other Latin tribes were here first. But Esau came over here. That murderer, Christopher Columbus, came over here and then started slaughtering our people. Every time he'd make a treaty, they'd slaughter us. So, who's really illegal? You know? And they make us sing bullshit songs like this land is your land, this land is our land, my land. That's bullshit. Because you know as well as I do that the paleface doesn't even belong here. We didn't give him this land. He stole it. But you know, Donald Trump wants to push that narrative that, you know, we need to build that wall. You know, and it's been the same thing that they've been saying for years. You know, that, you know, you got Republicans on one side and Democrats on the other, but they control both parties. They control the red and the blue that you see. And they'll only argue about, you know, other side issues, you know, such as, you know, we know that Babylon the Great promotes homosexual marriage, but the Republicans pretend to be opposed to it, but I don't see anything stopping it now. No, of course not. But they want you to believe, you know, that Donald Trump's going to make America great again. Well, when was America ever great? In the essence, it's called Babylon the Great, but how did it become great? Through the slavery for those that built it up. From the slavery of those who built it up. And who really benefited? The Amalekites at the top, but all the Edomites underneath them, pretty much, are the ones that benefited from it. You know, again, You know, people like us, if we want to go and get a loan, we're going to be denied because of our past credit history. But an Edomite who is screwed up time and time again is always going to get that loan. Is always going to get a second or third chance, because nothing really happens to Esau in these things. Sure, Edomites get busted and arrested, but who really does the hard time? We, the Hebrew Israelites, the blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. And then you have confusion of faces among that. You know, they know who we are. And the fact is, though, is that just watchmen in just about, you know, soon going to be every city. You know, this thing's going to blow up. But then the famine of the word is coming to where we won't be on the streets teaching anymore because it'll be finished. You know, but, you know, where are the people now? You know, there are still people that are watching these videos that need to come out here and do the work. Hey, I was convicted by this. You know, it's time for me to come out of the works. You know, I've known this truth for a little over a year now. It was time to go into the city. Not wait for a camp to come to me, but I start that camp and eventually that camp would build. You know? And you can't be afraid of what people think of you. I've been laughed at for just about everything, you know? But, you know, some of it because I was doing stupid shit. But who cares what people think of you? They all laughed at Yahweh Shai and pretty much led to him being captured and killed. Judas Iscariot. There's a lot of Judases, he-goats amongst our people, you know. They hide out, sell us out, you know. IUIC, they like to call people's work and bring up false charges against them to try to get them fired, you know. We wouldn't even do that to an Edomite, make false accusations against an Edomite. But they'll do that to us, you know. Make up false accusations, you know. You know, and then they, of course, try to turn our words around about the whole rape doctrine. You know, just everything that they can, because they're the scoffers. They're the same ones that scoff at Yahweh Shai when he came here. And, you know, the one that they call Jesus Christ, you know, he's not a so-called white man. He is a black man with white woolly hair. But they're not going to teach you that. So who's going to teach them that? Even though it's right there in the Bible, in Revelation chapter 1, verses 14 and 15, you know. But they're not going to teach that. We have to teach that. We have to teach that feet like unto fine brass, as if burned through a furnace, is talking about him having dark skin. And I know people try to send images and make it look like it's a brass horn or something like that. That's what... you know, fine brass would look like? No. No, burned through a furnace, so it's going to look black. And we have videos for that too. You know, you can look it up. In fact, Denzel Washington puts it in a movie, those actual verses, and he says it proves that the Son of Man was a black man. And Jesus Christ is not even a name. It's a title. It means blessed, anointed, you know. So his real name would be a Hebrew name, because he was a Hebrew of the tribe of Judah. He's known as the Lion of the King of the tribe of Judah. So therefore, he is a dark-skinned man with white woolly hair. That's who Yahweh Shai really is. But they don't want you to know anything about that. You know, they have those false images up. Make you think that he was a Caucasian. And they likened him unto Cesare Borgia, who had incest with his sister, was a child molester, but this is who they created to be the image of the Son of Man, Cesare Borgia. And we know who Cesare Borgia is. You can look it up yourself. Do the work. Look it up. Cesare Borgia is the image. They call Cesare Borgia the blessed anointed. And he's under the Pope. This is Esau trying to be like the Most High, sitting in the mountains of the congregation. Because every time you hear that name Jesus Christ, you think of the Caucasian of Cesare Borgia. And the Son of Man is not a Caucasian. He is a black man with white woolly hair. But they're not going to teach that. Try to go to one of these churches and see if they'll teach Revelation chapter 1 verses 14 and 15. They're going to shrug that off.